Ahoy! And welcome to Manning Overboard, Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain, a show about the good in liquid life,
where we talk about bars, bartending, and booze.
She's Hotcakes.
And he's the Captain.
Thanks for coming aboard. Now, let's go overboard. Ahoy, and welcome to Manning Overboard, Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain. I am the Captain, Rich Manning, and with me as always is my lovely, beautiful, and talented wife, Heather Hotcakes.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So what are you drinking, the Hotcakes? What do you drink?
What are we drinking today? Well, as always, we are drinking in honor of our guests. So, I found a little recipe on the Imbibe called the Scotch E Coco Chanel, which is a Scotch drink. It's Scotch, Amontillado, a little bit of lemon, and a really, really rich, deep tea syrup topped off with coconut water.
That sounds phenomenal. This is so, yeah.
And then, speaking of coconut, I am drinking probably the drink that they are most famous for, their coquito, which is a whole bunch of milk. Evaporated milk, sweetened condensed milk, coconut cream. There's a beautiful toasted coconut syrup that goes into it, Ango, and salt.
Yeah. I will admit that we did a little R&D with this last night, and oh my gosh, it is so... We have like 4 bottles worth.
We're ready. We're ready for the holidays.
Yeah.
All right. So before you drink...
Yes.
Why don't you introduce our guests and find out what they're drinking?
Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you, because I was going to suck down the
I know you were.
All right, so today's guest is LyAnna Sanabria, co-founder and beverage director of Papi Portland in Portland, Maine. Yay! She is an absolute force of nature and a force for good as well in the industry. LyAnna landed on 2025's Imbibe 75 list. She was recognized as one of Wine Enthusiast's top 8 Hispanics in the beverage industry in 2023.
Impressive.
That same year, she cracked the top 20 of Punch's Best New Bartender list.
Yay!
Her Puerto Rican restaurant, Papi, earned a regional nomination for Best New Bar Tales of the Cocktail in 2024. The space is also a home base for her mentorship program, unofficially named Titi, a play on the Spanish term for auntie. It is designed to help Puerto Rican bartenders to improve their skills behind the stick. And she is a tremendous representation of the drinks industry at its best. And we are so damn delighted to have her on the show today. So, welcome, LyAnna, to Manning Overboard.
Yay!
Yay!
What are
that
you
is
drinking
an
today?
Introduction. I've got a basil smash over here.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually probably going to drink a Scotchy Cocoa, the at-home version, and then I was like, wait, that's the last thing we talked about. Maybe that's redundant. And I was like, well, it is in the fridge. Then I was like, just kidding. We have Bimini gin here locally, and so anytime I can throw that into something, and it was right up the road. I actually was just, my best friend just had a baby. Whoop. And so I swung by the gin distillery after putting her down to the nap, and it's the end of season basil.
Okay.
We had a really late summer season. I usually like to grow things. And so it's one of those last picks. They definitely were on the funkier end of the basil world. And so I threw in a little bit of gentian and just a little bit of honey because my throats hurt a little bit, and some lemon. And yeah, just pack a punch, but mini, and it's basically like herbal soup.
I love it.
Well,
I love
cheers.
it. Well, cheers, my dear.
Yes.
Cheers.
We're so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. That's a wild introduction. For the last 4 years have very much flown by, and when I was thinking about updating my bio for this, I was like, oh wait, I haven't really done that. And thinking of doing that, I was like, I haven't really done anything. I've unloaded a lot of liquor boxes, organized a lot of, I've done a lot of miles, and then to hear it put from somebody else's mouth in that way is quite humbling.
And it's well earned. Well earned.
The first time I interviewed you last year, LyAnna, I was just blown away by you and your story and your background. So that sets up the first question we have for you. What is your background? I mean, what is your journey here? And I will preface this by saying, I know you were born in Vermont and you're a Puerto Rican and French Canadian descent. So how does that play into your journey? Do tell.
Yeah. I think being a first generation Vermonter, being a first generation anything can be an interesting feat. And then being a first generation Vermonter can also have its whole other beast.
Sure.
It's something I've always identified with deeply and appreciate New England, but it definitely, growing up there, made it so I was consistently looking for a home and kind of what identity meant and those types of things. And so they've wandered through my career as I've kind of more been moving around the country looking for what the definition of home was, until one time I was stuck in end-to-end traffic, like end of the state to end of the state in Nebraska, on
Whoa.
I-80. Not once did hit over 32 miles an hour. I had an old Cadillac that I bought from my dad in the mountains in Idaho, and
Wow.
my cat was sitting in the back, and it's like everything was all a mess, and she was she should have been so uncomfortable, and instead it was like I built her this throne, and she just had her head like kind of in the wind, her feet were completely above her head, and she was just like looking around like this was also her kingdom. And I remember looking at her and kind of being like, oh, that's the point. I don't know that I can make that happen yet because I'm wildly uncomfortable. I have to pee. I haven't seen anything besides like a cheese stick and a whatever at a gas station in a minute right now. And then having that thought like, oh, okay. And so then taking those next steps of being like, just kidding, wherever I go is going to be home. So let's follow my heart a little bit more instead of trying to figure out what that means.
Okay.
However, for a job, I will never not bartend, and not just because I have to. I do always love responding to people in the way when they're like, so what do you do with your real life? Or one of those, I'm like, excuse me, when's the last time you met somebody who likes their job? Because none of you sitting in front of me from B1 through 12 have said that once over the last year and a half.
Sure.
And so then trying to navigate bartending through the States and kind of based off of what the current feelings. I was relocating into Maine and was deeply connected with the French Canadian side. My grandfather on that side was kind of like my human, if you will.
Sure.
And so I wanted to be in Maine with him. And then that kind of made me realize these different identities, which I've always realized I've always been doing, but not wanting to leave the industry, but also refusing to leave his end of life because, of course, he slept through a heart attack and then survived for 5 more years because that is what a stubborn French Canadian man does. It's like often if it's, oh, my Puerto Rican side stubborn, I'm like, you don't even know. And I think of Pepe. And so it was kind of this navigating of building something that was deeply close to me and looking at the path that I'd taken, because also to prove to and wanting him to be proud. I don't always have to we live the underground, right?
Sure.
I'm not necessarily going to follow a normal path, but that doesn't mean that there's not normalizing and healthy and really beautiful things in our industry.
Absolutely.
But then trying to explain that to the above ground in the newspaper or that type of thing isn't always like trying to be like, oh, it's so funny. They have this new word for bar wench. It's called mixologist.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't hear proctologist, honey. And it's kind of like, and so just merging the sides, like, how do you make somebody proud through this? How do you give access to the higher end, like the real career driven ends of the industry, and also still be able to like move around the country to follow your heart because people happen to live all over. So I wound up in Maine and was here only for him. And then the more true I was to myself and the more I set my parameters around what I would and wouldn't do for work, or what my worth was and what I was willing to walk away from or walk towards, kind of ended up turning into a whole ass bar.
A whole ass
Now that
bar.
I was like trying to get to where I was like, where was I going? Yeah, never. Okay, yeah, that got to a whole ass bar. I see what I did there.
You did that well. You did that well. So speaking of Papi, do you want to explain what Papi is for the not educated, but for those who don't know? What is
Of course.
What is Papi in your eyes?
Yeah, Papi is it's funny because it's in a transition, as it always will be, because Papi is quite a living entity. Papi is a Puerto Rican bar and restaurant in the old port of Portland, Maine. Now, as of this year, actually, technically the country's second whitest state. Vermont did outrank them, and I do joke that it's because my brother, my father have all officially moved out. We do all have 802 phone numbers, but that's it. It's just smarter than that. But it's been a love language to the island. I feel like it's been a way through food and very serious, like your gastronomy experience on one end, and at the same time, like a real ratchet reggaeton and like overproof rum party at the end of the night, ode to what started as a very specific Puerto Rican bar and restaurant. We didn't need to be Pan Latin or Caribbean. I wanted to show that this singularity of it and the differences in the cuisine and like the entire lexicon that you can use to talk about it was unique. And especially as one of the world's oldest colonies, that a voice added to the haystack could help. And that's the one side. There's, there is a very deep side of it and the love letter side of it. And the other side was, I'm so sorry, but the things that my dad would use ground beef in, people would literally be driving their F-150s over with their picnic tables on the back to line up out front because my grandmother was in town for the month. And they'd prefer that than a $75 steak. And that's 90s prices. But just the other side of like, wait, but this is actually also delicious. These flavors actually deserve much more exploring. I love a pina colada and all of these things, and then the other side is the ancestral ingredients and the native ingredients and how they use them and how they learned how to use them. And Papi basically became the love language to that. You can take your grandmother out. You could celebrate your 16th anything. I was like, that's not a quinceañera, but anyway. It's like, I was like, that's not right either. But that's, anyway, Vermont. And a place to be able to like truly celebrate. It's like when tears of joy become a reality from laughing too hard, from crying in the corner because it actually is an emotional experience, or because you're just so full. Like you don't say no to another empanada.
Yeah.
And it's grown in its way, where holding its force with the population as specifically Puerto Rican has been up and down. Currently, I have just officially passed off my beverage director title.
Okay.
To make room for all of the people moving up. So if we were starting, I was beverage director, and I had my assistant beverage director, and we started with that like kind of funny name so that we could always move everybody who was learning from us into a name with an actual title, like lead or manager. You just don't usually have 3 of those on staff. And so a Latina that I've actually been training for 5 years, a Colombian, has taken over. Yep. And so they're really complex conversations. And so Papi currently is a love language. I was talking with a Puerto Rican lawyer, and a fun way of phrasing it would be, this Puerto Rican, this diasporican gets to step off the bar. Labor laws basically make it so like being an owner and bartending, which bartending is my true love.
Sure.
Running all of that and the other and trying to train somebody and be a face of something becomes wildly convoluted, and you end up having to break one of them apart. I don't want to break apart any of those identities, but what I can do is let people then start moving into that position so that I can start taking Papi on the road. I want to be able to do pop-ups and this and that, but I can't do that when the liquor order needs to be in.
Sure.
And there's no reason for me to not trust any of the people, and especially the ones that I said years ago in any of their interviews, the goal would be to take my job. And they can. And so this diasporican gets to take things on the road. I just got to take my first little vacation, hang out with babies, do nothing in the best way. I downloaded chess.com while Papi gets to continuously function, still filled with Latinas and a lot of the queer population as well, while I get to make owner percentage while never stepping in the room, just answering questions through text messages, which was always the plan at 3 years and then 5 years to be able to move and do these things. And so now I'm in the building phase of what Papi will look like in its next. So it is a funny thing to answer in a very long-winded answer because it's like it's a bar and restaurant. It was like super hyper specific to being Puerto Rican and only Puerto Rican because we needed to prove that could happen. Now that we prove that can happen, we cannot dishonor it by only keeping it Puerto Rican if there's not enough Puerto Ricans to hold it up, because also a lot of the Puerto Ricans that work there are doing really dope things now, which it all was intended to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to stay in the room for 2 more years, not being able to take Papi to other places and to see what we all can do, because somebody else also deserves to have the beverage director position.
No, that's phenomenal. And I hope that when you do take Papi on the road, you do show up to Southern California where we're at, because I'm guessing that you'd be quite popular with your beverages.
That would be very fun. And actually, that was going to, this has been the first time where I can separate work and play, where it'll be like, oh, I'm not just going there because it also works as a work thing. However, I'm now phasing out of that. Like I woke up yesterday morning wanting to listen to like classical music, and I was like, oh, finally I got bored. And like, now I'm allowed to get back up, because otherwise I would have been lying to myself and being like, you're rested. No, I'm not. You're still drunk. But anyway, it's that now I've gone to the point of, oh, I get to merge them back, and that's about to be a lot of fun instead of too much work. And one of the first trips that I need to make is actually Southern California, because I promised I have to meet her dog. She's not having a baby yet, and anyway, the dog's getting older. So this Southern California will be one of my first trips, actually, specifically because of my heart again.
Whose dog do you have to meet?
I went to college with her.
Oh, lovely.
Her name's, yeah, I was like, she definitely did bartend, and we worked at like a hookah lounge, which I don't actually think we had legal drinks. But yeah, non-industry human. She's in the music industry.
I love that.
Okay, nice.
I
That's
love
great.
that.
Now, I know that you built a rather impressive Puerto Rican scene in Portland. You know, we've talked about that in the past. Did you set out to create this Puerto Rican hub in this super white city? Or did you just kind of like settle into that as it gradually happened? As you saw it happen, did you say, you know what, there's something here. We can work with this?
Both.
Okay.
When I was had time to reflecting on not quite wanting to say what I'm doing next, because realizing after the last 4 years that the things that you repeat to yourself, the things that you say you are, or that you might want to become, the things you might ask for, that's the work of manifesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like putting that in. And it was funny because that's something that I continuously repeated. I want to have a space for us. What us meant very much was often in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
I would repeat what I meant by it, and it would mean different things. But then when I actually think about what my thoughts were then versus my words, like I was asking for it before day one. I was being hyper specific. I was being protective. I was definitely pretty political from the beginning for something that would have been given as a first business opportunity in that way. And I was absolutely intending for a space. I wanted one little corner of a space that I refused to leave, because I will not leave Pepe while he was alive.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted a corner that I also could not be I didn't have to like explain something for a second. Like when my heart's going through something, like a lot of my childhood friends, they never experienced the Puerto Rican side of my life. But that's also because like I got off the school bus and then I walked inside of my house, and then that's where it was. All we needed was a living room and a dining table to have it be a version of this. And that is like the microcosm, like the translation over to the bar. And so I very specifically wanted like my dad's kitchen in New England, because that's where I was raised, and I always loved both. Like I love both. I am both. And it was very specific, but then realizing as it was going, I think the thing that I switched more was realizing that my identity was easily perceived as a translation. I am very neurodivergent. I am white. I am those things, except my ability to like translate them out, the way that I'm perceived, gives me this little like in through the cracks, is kind of how it felt, especially in Portland. It was like, well, okay, this might be some form of culture or spice or something that you're afraid of or timid of or naive of, but you're not really that scared of me. Well, that's a funny thing to say. That's not what I was saying. And I was like, oh my God, is anybody going to believe me? um, but in that way of like, I can represent in that way. And when I realized that I could represent, I very much wanted to build a room, and I very much thought I could get people to come to the room. We proved that very quickly that people would come. And so
Sure.
that was absolutely intentional. But no, I wasn't actually, I guess, realizing as I'm saying it, I didn't realize that I could quite be a representative in such a way that could follow through. I could see the respect on the old Islanders' face, as well as the younger friends, as well as the Das Puerto as well as the like Happy that was like kind of curious about coming in, and we would identify and feel comfortable. And realizing that I was able to access a national scene, that kind of changed. Like I wasn't really planning on doing so much with it, with my face in front of it, but then realizing how much that could also make people in the room. It's like, it wasn't like, it sometimes, like when you get into a newspaper, it can be like a really downside, because then all of a sudden all these people who want absolutely nothing to do with you, and they're never going to like absolutely anything, and they all have cilantro allergies, are all going to be coming in, but they're going to be like, well, yeah, we saw it was one of the top places. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean it's a top place for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you hospitality, but like you're mischoosing us and then blaming us because like I don't have that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then this felt the other. It was like, oh wait, all the people in the room are like super proud that like they already knew the dance, they already knew the song, they already knew those flavors, they felt comfortable. And the outside is coming in, and instead of demanding like woo girl, like demand like you have to change, this is our party, like just because it's your bachelorette party does not mean that you can take your shirt off during service.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like sometimes like to me the translation of like when people would come in at first like, hi, we want you to completely change everything about who you are so we can have fun. And I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
You're gonna have
How
fun
fun.
because
You're
I'm
literally
we're
gonna
gonna have fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then that's, I think, the part that changed into something that I had no idea could or would become. But the other side, yeah, it was like ferocious. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, I said a lot of stuff, huh? I was pretty ferocious about that.
No, that's great though, and I mean, it really kind of like it's one of the reasons why I find you so endearing is because you're so fierce and you do all that, and I know you do that with some of your mentorship program, your TT program. What inspired you to create that?
So that's the one that kind of just like, oh, look at, we're doing the thing we've always intended on doing. The thing we have this pipe dream of doing, the thing we're always talking about doing, the thing. But if you actually categorize it, we're doing the thing.
You're doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then realizing that kind of, I guess, that other like, oh look, we're marketable, we're already doing it. It fits in these descriptors. Like these are very extreme data points for a national statistic pool. Why wouldn't we be creating some success stories? And so that was kind of the after of more like, oh, if we're already going to be doing pop-ups, if that person already needs a job, if we're already doing that, why wouldn't we? I think it gives a sense of like pride and direction as well. It's like, I know so many really brilliant, engineers, bartenders, everything that it's like when you then bring up like education or accolades, like if they haven't been able to access either, a Psalm statistic or like any of these things to be able to like put a stamp on you, that like help get us through the door. It's like why we went to college.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that it's like, oh, I didn't actually graduate from high school, I ended up getting my GED later. And that's like a lot of the beautiful success stories in the restaurant industry, and a really cool thing about the restaurant industry. And being able to say like, oh, this is more specific. Like, of course I can think of like started as bar back, now badass bartender in Nashville, like thinking like, Eddie would have never, like, to try to convince him that like this training, it's like the way to explain the training and the way to value your worth when you leave, being in a training program and going through a certain amount of like quick breakdown and quick buildup to learn those skills very rapidly and to be able to apply them nationally is a lot. And it's so hard to not take personally, because that's one of the lessons that comes after you actually get the job. Sure. In all of that. And so being able to put that like more like talking about it more specifically, talking about it with more intention, like Eddie, I know there were so many points today that I had to be hard on you or I had to criticize you, because also we're running live. One of the most beautiful things about turning tables is that like you can actually sit and work with it. We're running live and we actually do have to hit a certain number because we do actually have to pay rent. And so it was under these wild constraints. But when there's that understanding of like, right, not only did you get to make tips today instead of paying for a class, but all of the times that it was like between us was actually because we're just getting all of this done in 2 months instead of 5 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we go out and we have a drink, we grab some food, and then we can talk about it as if we were just playing a game.
Yeah.
As if we were just having a chess match, like just something that was kind of two different people that were there.
Yeah, you're playing a role. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think method acting in the restaurant industry can be really beneficial. And then that's kind of what I think directly navigating it towards a mentorship style work is like, well, it's going to be a beatdown because the shift's still going to be 14 hours. It's still going to be a double. It's still Saturday night. It's going to hurt. It is going to hurt. Nothing's going to make this industry. We can make this industry less toxic, however, less physically intense. A lot of that is going to have a really hard time changing because it's a building and it has to get from there to there. And so I think that was a big part of it.
So as a teacher, how do I understand the wanting to teach and the wanting to grow. As a teacher, I'm Mrs. Manning in the classroom. You know, I get to break it down. There are no rules. But as a mentor, it's a little bit different. How do you draw that line between holding somebody's hand, playing that role, but then also when the shit hits the fan, you got to be like, no, we're done. I'm not your friend right now. I've got to put you in your place.
It's so hard.
Oh, it's
that question, actually, I am very thankful for that question. The thought of Papi's in a lot of transitions. I'm in a lot of transitions. Every one of them is good. They're actually fantastic. But explaining transition and what you learn from it can sometimes seem like a negative thing.
Sure.
And so like the thought of like bringing up just talking about any of it, it was like, oh, talking about that. Oh, right. All of that. Oh, right. Oh, okay. So that person's in Nashville. That person's in Florida. That person's running that thing. That one went to accounting school, going through those and then thinking about the relationships and the pros and the cons and like what came out of it, because setting those boundaries, that was something that at first was really easy because I was just setting, like I'd worked with kids and things like that before. And so I was kind of just applying the same boundaries.
Sure.
It was like, no, you can't just assume that we're going to this location. You can't just assume we're imbibing together. I don't know, all of these things that were just kind of like much more like strict and clear for me. And then it got more into when people would start taking something personally.
Yeah.
And it would be like, but you don't know me. Why do you think you know me either? And that wasn't personal. I just asked if you actually knew the varietal, etc. And it did actually start becoming one of those. It was a really funny meeting as well, because if the reputation of being Puerto Rican in Maine already comes with a little bit of capsaicin and spice, when we don't even put capsaicin in our food.
No.
Here's like, I'm always like, Americans are saucy, Puerto Ricans are spicy, whatever. And it was kind of one of those where I very much had to sit with this like grace of trying to figure out where to defend myself, where to teach, and where to draw the line. And then I realized with this whole other cultural element involved that became so convoluted to do that. Like just training somebody about like, when I would be training just specifically a Puerto Rican, that we had great successes with. Because I didn't really have to do a lot of this specific translating about how I was teaching something, what I meant by it, and also what they thought about what our goal was. Like our goal to them was so much more important and for themselves and for their identity that like we could communicate really easily. Like the line of I'd be like, are you wait, are you taking me personally right now? And
Right.
he'd be like, yeah, personal. And I'd be like, no, honey, we're clocked in.
Yeah.
But then with others, it would be like, I'd find myself not correcting in so many times where I'd be like, I should actually be teaching right now. I should be correcting. I should be nipping that in the bud. Oh, it's going to grow back stronger. It's going to grow back stronger. And I'm like watching those things. And then I'm like watching all of the other people watch me watch this thing, which was the whole point, side note.
The whole point of what you were doing. Yeah.
The whole point. And all of a sudden I was watching myself be judged. And I was like, that's interesting. Wait, because I said don't do that and your wash line needed to be fixed, stand by everything that I said. And now you're making me say that I'm not sorry, which makes me sound even more not sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it really, really, really became convoluted. And so between a lot of the overhead company and things like that, I became protective with what we could get out of it. And so in terms of like immediately running to go sign up for a 501(c) and being like, yep, we're going to nail this down. Like we have so many success points in this. Absolutely. But then realizing all those other wild factors, like exactly that, and then how it then can convolute a culture in the, or the translate the communication about a culture was something that I then wanted nothing to do with.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was then like, hold on. If that's how I'm going to be taken, then either let's do some shadow work. Like, do we need to refigure out how we address people? You know, I was born in early 90s. So it's like sometimes chef culture and those types of things that we're trying to weed out a lot of this toxic communication. Am I just habitually partaking? Just like you accidentally pass it on, like when you're a young mother, you pass it on to your first gen, and then it cycles. And I was taking a lot of steps back and trying to figure out how to keep teaching with grace without finding myself then being like, so don't take this personally, but I need to tell you something.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then by the time I get that out, the dog has already eaten the entire stick of butter. So it's already
100%.
over. And so I was finding that it was really, really hard to cycle through. And I also wasn't getting we weren't sustaining each other. It was bad business. Like it felt like bad business, not bad numbers, but it just felt like this feels toxic a little. Let me make sure we're talking about this correctly. I kind of looked at myself and it was like, okay, so talked with a lot of my old bar mentors, a lot of my bar dads, if you will. And I was like, hey, I mean, you used to speak to me like this and I don't speak anything like you do. And then actually hearing them be like, so I talk to you crazy though. Like, so if you're dulling down what I'm talking, like you already have to dull it down like a lot more than that, because like that's already, you know, we're growing a lot faster than that. We're already into another generation. Like we're not even speaking, we're talking to the next generation now. Before we were talking to younger millennials. Now we're talking to way younger than that.
Absolutely.
And it is like our thumbs do different things. And it's one of those like, okay, so now I want to relearn how to communicate with this younger generation. What do they mean by these things? Why do they take this offensively? Because I definitely understood like when my grandfather or somebody was talking to me like that, but I don't see how I'm doing that back. And so I'm still sitting in that shadow work because I don't see why there's any reason to ever remove that completely and just be like, oh yeah, I totally nailed that.
Yeah.
Because that would definitely snowball. But the other side was I was sitting, you know, obviously my hairdresser, my best therapist, and she was like, oh, so, you know, I got mad at somebody, they'd made a very, very, very wildly inappropriate racist comment. And this wasn't one of those that was, I wonder if I misunderstood this.
Yeah, it was
a blatant.
Done. I am done with this statement right now. A girl happened to be training that night. She happened to be walking up as I was reprimanding this person and making sure that I understood the facts because they're wild. And so she's looking at me like, whoa, you're eating this boy alive. And I'm like, hold on. I've actually covered him with cream and I'm putting a cherry on top and I'm being so wildly sweet. Do you want to hear what he said? I will not repeat it. In one of those ways where it's like, hold on, why am I being looked at a monster when like that thing was actually so hurtful and damaging? Like hurtful is not like, oh, ow, my feeling. It's like, okay, this actually like,
right.
Yeah.
cycles hate in a very extreme, deathly way. And so I'm sitting there and she's like, okay, so, you know, like, oh, like this person got mad at you or like, did they complain? And I'm like, well, of course they complained. They saw me defending race, like, or like, sabotaging racism. Of course they thought I was being wild. And she's like, you know, like, I was trained by the last generation too. We really have to learn how to do these things. And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting here waking up with it, trying to figure out how to like deal with it a little more gracefully in this. And right now, the person that I actually am so sad that I haven't defended with grace is myself. I was just teaching you in those types of things, right? I didn't want it to go in such wild ways. And then there's the other of, well, I also next round maybe won't feel it when that is returned back.
Right.
But the possible merging of it being blamed on a culture and a space that was a certain type did make me step back and be much more careful instead of it just being kind of like an open classroom. It was like, who is going to be capable of understanding what I mean by that?
Sure.
And that's then in the pool of learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm still about to go see I was at the end of one of my last bar shifts when one of the newer barbacks was hired. Colombian boy, super excited, like loves to be able to represent, like loves to be able to, he's like, I'm not Puerto Rican, but at least I can speak Spanish and I think I am.
Yeah.
And he gets to have his first weekend barbacking shift coming up. And it's one of those, like, it sends me a text message, like, you're going to come in and see me on one of my shifts, right? Like, I have to be able to show you.
Yeah.
And so it's still a cycle of, it's still happening, but I think more intentionally and with less clout behind the name in a good way. Yes, of course, like if you want to learn from me, I will be an open book. I literally don't stop talking when you ask me a question. But at the same time, what are we going to do with that information? Because if it's only that you're learning from me and it has nothing to do with the information, I want to be a face of something because I'm easy to digest, but I don't want to be the face of anything.
Sure.
And that then started making me feel like the face of something versus being able to pull my face and us forward. I'm like, look at us sneaking. It's like when you have that friend who knows how to get the crowd at a concert and like, how did you end up at the front? I could never do that. But when they hold my hand, I'm at the front.
Right.
I felt like that friend for a while at the front of the concert, but I don't need to be the one in the spotlight of that. And it started to feel a little convoluted like that. So it definitely was super, super hard to try to cross over between. I didn't say jump. I said cut the line properly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And it seems so extreme, but
I'm going to do something because our screen has managed to like shift all the way over. And there we are. Hey, look.
Hey, look.
Hey, look, I have
that's
a
right
shoulder
as
now.
my cat just pulled that I was wondering. I didn't know if I'd move my screen, and I was like, I have my feet locked in, guys.
No, you're good. Hello, friend.
Hello, how are you?
She made it.
Oh,
Yeah.
hello,
Almost
sweet
cool.
girl. Hello, sweet girl. All right.
Right. So, one thing I do want to bring up is, and I know we've talked about this in the past, is you've done some collaborative work with Tory Folks and then Turning Tables in New Orleans, who, by the way, when I brought you up to him at Tales last year, he's like, oh yeah, LyAnna's my girl. So, very, very appreciative of
I was
what
just
you
about to
do.
try to do like a forever sign, and I was like, I don't actually know how to do that, but I do know the heart.
Awesome, yeah.
We love Tory.
Yeah, to the point that like, I mean, Tory's like that's a forever human at this point. I think sometimes navigating in this industry, trying to find somebody, and then some group, and then something, like whichever way you kind of get into it with like-minded individuals and like how you can change something. It's like all iconic dive bars that have existed for 50 years were just like kind of like weird OG hipsters that when they all got together, they created a really good vibe in a room.
Yeah.
And I will forever try to be at a bar stool at the dive bar with that human.
Okay. Heard.
In that world where that actually, I was laughing because I was like, oh, I won't have enough time to talk to him before this. But we are planning just other things. He needs to actually get a chair out of his mother's house. And I was like, cool, I have a truck. He was like, you want to make a road trip out of it? I was like, yeah. And realizing that we haven't followed up on that, but there's absolutely a chance that we're doing a LyAnna times Trey, Papi turning tables.
I love it.
Like road trip down through Nashville, down to New Orleans, blah, blah. But yeah, we'll always be continuously communicating in the different spaces on how to build things forward. And that's actually one of our next conversations to have.
I love that.
That is super, super cool. Yeah.
So much.
He is,
yeah.
You know, I
That
mean,
we were kind of thinking that we were like, wait, we should actually, is it like filming in cars with comedians? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Comedians with coffee with some crap. I don't know.
Coffee
But
and
Right. I
cars
can
and
never.
Seinfeld and yeah.
yeah.
It's like the name always sits in the image in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, us in my truck. I feel like going from New York City, or like, yeah, I think it would be Maine to New York City, Chicago, Nashville, and down. Which of course we still have to actually continue this plan. We had a very in-depth plan, and then I'm realizing we didn't follow up on that in-depth plan because that's how we are.
Yeah.
It's the nature of being a creative and getting things done.
100%.
That's great.
100%.
That's great.
So I mean that kind of answers like our last question. Where do you see we already know where Papi is going. Or at least you're on the path.
Mm-hmm.
And so for TT, do you see it growing globally? Do you want to
Cool question.
or at least nationally for that matter?
I mean, yeah, both are. Yeah, yes, definitely. It's something that, yes, it's like if that's endpoint and all of these little ones in the middle, they kind of all just always create the same thing, like how TT kind of accidentally created itself and it just is. The network, if you will, is growing. One of those where we might not have like quite a specific name right now. Like I'm not gonna, oh, these are like the 3 mentees that I have, which up until me leaving, because why I'm not just gonna leave them there.
Sure.
But until then it was like like less specific. But the network that we've grown nationally, and actually when you said globally, I was like, that's funny. It's almost like global becomes as easy as national when you're in the restaurant industry.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's why
It's like, well,
it came
actually
out of my
flying to
mouth.
Europe is so much easier than flying to LA for me. Like one of those, like, no.
I hate you.
Where
Yeah.
as I was saying that, I was like, oh wow, that's so lucky. What am I doing? Anyway, yeah, it definitely will. And it can morph into so many forms, which has been really cool. The feeling of that TT, the family, but also the person who can yell at you, but also still is not going to tell your dad, but at other times, like the way that I don't know, there's just so many ways that it can be morphed. It's like I still very much want to, there's a lot of connections to be made right now. I'm like, how can I don't want to do like spoilers or teasers or like things that are just pipe dreams and then try to delineate between any of them. But yeah, it definitely, I don't see how it could not,
I love
I
that.
guess
That's
is
great.
my answer.
I love that. And I love that you identify as the auntie, the TT. And if you go to my Instagram handle, the first thing it says is industry auntie, because that's what I want to be. I want to be able to hug and love on everybody, but I also want to be able to grab them by the shoulders and be like, "What are you doing? I love you so much. Can we talk?"
It's real.
Yeah.
It's that person. It's like, I've loved all the new psychology studies coming out being like, aunties are so important for young children. And I'm like, it's actually why I was running behind today. It was like, I had to play auntie. She works overnight. She needed to sleep for a couple of hours.
I love that.
What do you want me to do? And then I did have to change my shirt.
Yeah. No,
but
that's perfectly appropriate.
That's great.
We
and
need
that's
more
also
aunties in the
actually you do give that vibe as well. I should have, when I was like, I've been excited to meet you because of that vibe. It's one of those where it's like saying somebody's partner, somebody's wife. It's like people always think that you're like delineating between like this other that's not like allowed in the bar. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what bar do you think I'm running? I'm excited when wifey shows up, first of all. Intimidated? No, what do you mean? Now we've got somebody to bully, like as in the husband. But anyway, you do have total auntie vibes, because that's totally what I should have said when I was excited to meet you. I'm like, oh, I get to meet the wife. It's like, well, the wife, but like the auntie, well, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now you're mine, and that's just the way it goes. So,
yeah.
So I mean, you can be the auntie to everybody, but I'll be your auntie. How's that?
Right. Which is exactly what we need. That's exactly the point, right? It's like, no,
Exactly.
you're never supposed to be only at the top. Then that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's where sugar lives,
aunties.
and you need other things. You need butter.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
All right.
So we've come to the end almost, but before we say our goodbyes, Heather, you have some questions, right?
We have our last call questions.
Yes.
Oh yes, I will remember. Okay.
Yeah, because
I wrote down
we
my answers.
We always send these to our guests so they can be prepared.
Yeah, these on the fly really can be crazy. I'm like, hold on, I wrote it down. I'm fine. I'll remember.
You'll be okay. And it's just like sitting at the end of the bar because that's what we like it. That's what we liken it to. If we were sitting at Papi and it was the end of the night or the end of happy hour, because I'm an early drinker, and and it's the first time in the city, I want to know these things, and that's why we came up with these last call questions, because every bartender is going to have a different answer. Not only if it doesn't matter if they're in the same city. I can interview 3 Nashville bartenders. I can interview 3 Phoenix bartenders. I can interview 3 New York bartenders, and they're going to have all wildly different answers, and they're all totally appropriate. So just pretend that we're sitting at Papi, and and we're coming to the last call. And I want to say I'm new in the city. I've never been to Portland. I've never been to Portland, Maine, and I want to, but I've been here. Where do I go next for a good drink?
Okay. I'm going to have a question first.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be like, okay, so a good drink after being at a craft location. Sometimes, I mean, I want to maintain craft. I want to maintain vibe, or I want to maybe like rectify, like follow something fatty with bubbles, like in that way of like, oh, I just had like craft and intense. Now I want to go to super lowbrow.
Right. For these purposes, we wanna maintain the craft and the
Cool.
craft and the quality.
Then I would go up 2 doors, but I would, instead of going in the front door of Blythe and Burroughs, I would go in the back door. They have a red light in the alley that on the weekends you can enter through the back door, and it's closed off essentially for that. They call it the Dram.
I love that.
On Wednesdays, they do like dollar oysters, which are actually like Maine oysters, like they're from Damariscotta. And one of those things where it's like one of those where I'm like, hold on, that might not sound crazy to other people, but like we're in shellfish land.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds
And
incredible.
so it has like that, and it's one of those spaces that can get in Maine sometimes, like when I'm trying to find I want to be consumed sometimes when I go out. And that experience can sometimes be hard to find because I sometimes almost feel like we're like Universal Studios. Like we crush vibes in a stylistic way, like, or a thematic way. It'll be like that type of place or that type of place. But when I just like kind of want to like feel consumed, this room will get hot, even if it's -10 out, but in a way that there's always a cold draft coming from the people sneaking in from the alley.
Sure.
Really, really good craft cocktails. And at this same time, has this vibe of it's the afters to me of craft. Sure. I guess it's not yet my industry dive, but it is very much like, oh, this is my one next step. On top of it, it'll play a mix of, it's one of the only spots that you can also get like Puerto Rican music and like Latino music, but it will be vibed with other things built into it in a very DJ style way. Lovely. And so I'd say go to the Dram of Blythe and Bros would be my quick follow, especially because it's so close and you're going to be so full.
All right.
Fantastic.
So where do I go to get a good burger?
Okay. This one had me agonizing. Like if you'd asked me this on the spot, Spiral. In that Universal Studios ways, like the thematic way, like those very like just American, this is what you go in and it's, of course it's going to be there, but like Ruth makes it better. So there it is. Like burgers are mildly limited for like how good of food we have. It was one of those where I was like, I fact check my answers with some of my friends. Like, am I lying right now? Like, do I think that, or am I just answering this question? So my answers would be, for a smash burger, Black Cow burger, but only on the weekdays.
Okay.
All right.
If I wanted a normal $10 burger, I don't want it to be huge tavern. I don't want it to be smashed. I don't want some weird like onion sauce paste thing that you made. I want a burger. Then I would go to Mash Tun.
Okay.
But it's so hard to like answer a burger question because then I'm like, but would I go there for anything else other than the burger? To be honest, I literally hand my bar back, my credit card. I say, buy me and you a cheeseburger, get it to go, and drop this other person a shot up the road.
I love that.
Like, I don't necessarily hang out there, but I do want to eat that burger somewhere else. But then you have Tommaso's, and Tommaso's is one of those, like, they're always serve food until late. They are, like, you definitely have, like, if there's a country show or something like that, like, it's going to be overwrought with, how are you? But the normal clientele or the most recurring clientele is often, it's all industry. It's like, we're like, who wants cheesy mac with whatever they have. I forget what they have that we always get. Everybody has their specific order. I would get a burger there. And then it's always a funny thing to me. I feel like merging like craft with burgers really can be an interesting thing if that's not their whole point. There's a Spanish and French brasserie on the West End off of the beaten path, but still very easily accessible in a cutesy little area called Cheval.
Okay.
And they're the homemade, like she's James Beard nominated multiple times, pastry chef. So homemade bun, like one of those things where it's like, it's a very bougie version of a smash burger.
Okay.
No modifications. However, is it delicious? Yep, but you have to eat it like hot. Like you don't take it to go or something like that.
You have to eat it there. You have to eat it hot, ready to go.
So I'm like, I'm offering 4 burgers because none of them are Sam's in San Francisco.
Fair.
I'm like, it was literally one of those. I was like, am I just saying this because I live by Sam? Like, anyway, I think that's why I can't make a decision, but that's why you have 4.
That is okay.
Hopefully one of them's open.
We all had burgers, so we could probably do all 4.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah.
Me too. Literally, you have to compare.
Just line them up and be like, bum, 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 bum. Okay. I have an afternoon free in Portland, Maine. What do I do?
The one thing I want everybody to do in Portland, Maine, when they have an afternoon free is not to assume the weather. Like going into that, it was one of those where I'm like, oh, but how do I know if it's freezing cold and raining?
Yeah.
If none of that was a parameter and I had an afternoon, I would get on the ferry out of our little port and cross over to, it's called Peaks Island. Okay. So you get to look at Portland, but from the other side, we're like a little peninsula. And so you're going to go out and there's a whole like hour-long ride of islands, but get off at the first one called Peaks.
Okay.
Walk up and, chug a beer, obviously, whatever's in your bag. But one of those, I'm like, oh, hold on, before. I rent a go-kart for an hour, go-kart the island.
Fun.
And it doesn't take much longer than that. And then I can never remember the name of the restaurant, but you aren't going very fast on your go-kart, so you're going to have to go by it, and you definitely can read the sign. And they serve bouillabaisse all of the time, and you can sit on their balcony overlooking Portland from the opposite side. And this is like bouillabaisse, but like your New England version, but they're also going to have like monkfish, lobster, clam, like one of those where I'm like, this is a bougie bouillabaisse.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, you gave me so many. And overlooking with a local beer, a local drink, and then getting back over. And by that time, it's usually that switch in the afternoon where either you're going to stop over at Bard to get coffee, and then continue on either getting to the airport, or that's kind of when like the restaurants would be opening and your little walk back up from the water kind of, I feel like, would then just lead to the day.
I love that. I love that.
That's so cool.
And then final question, where do I go for a beer and a shot?
I'm like, okay, so
she got excited about that.
I was like, never speak in my language.
Right.
So if we're leaving Papi, and beer and a shot can be so many concepts. So if we're leaving because of proximity, then we're going to go directly across the street. We're going to walk into the pizza shop. But if you actually, like, instead of going around the counter, you just walk up the stairs, there's actually a bar. Just nobody ever notices that. The Jockey Bar, Off Track Bar. And they do beer, shot, slice combos every single night. So,
oh, nice.
And they'll never talk you out. It's one of those, they have like Chinar 70 and like Fernet on the back bar. And if you're like, can I have that instead of my back infused with pepperoni? They will say yes.
Okay.
But it'll literally be like, you can get a High Life and a Rolling Rock or a shot, and then a slice of any of them for $11.
Say less.
And right, it's one of those where I'm like, so for the price of a shot, I can put pizza in my pocket. Heard.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing. If I was me and I was going to get a shot and a beer, I'd go to Brewski's on the West End. And then if I was everybody else, which sometimes I am and also completely get it and would go, but I get scared of seeing everybody else when I'm in a beer and a shot mood, is Room for Improvement on Wharf Street, which I think, you two would have a freaking blast at Room for Improvement.
Yeah.
We're there. We are absolutely
awesome.
there.
We are absolutely there. My gosh. Seriously, we do want to go to Portland and check out the scene, hang with you and all that stuff. So,
like, one of the, it's Portland it's getting nichey, but it's very nichey, but word is getting out. Word is getting out.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny. It's been an interesting amount of time to sit and kind of watch it. It's like if it wasn't the point, if I come in as an industry person, I'd be like, wow. And then now to be like, oh, wow, I got to live in Portland during all of this. I got so lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
No, that's great. Well, LyAnna, thank you so much for joining us today on Manning Overboard. We really appreciate you, and I hope that you had as much fun as we did talking to you.
You guys are awesome.
Great. Now, if people want to find you on the socials, where should they look?
At LyAnna Sanabria or at Papi Portland on Instagram. I definitely won't ever open my Facebook, so let's ignore that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then papiportland.com is our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And remember, people, we can be found on Manning Overboard on Instagram as well, or you can also email us at manningoverboard@gmail.com for any questions or comments.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next happy hour with you. Cheers.
Yay!
Yay!
Cheers, then.
Cheers, guys. Salud.
Manning Overboard, Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain is produced and distributed by EatsDrinksTV.
A service of the nonprofit Center for Culinary Culture, home of the cocktail collection,
The Center for Culinary Culture,
telling the story of food and drink, one taste at a time.